What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Riders. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Kamen Rider Gotchard, episode 38. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Josh, this past weekend, I had to take care of some business that we're going to discuss today.
Okay. It's very ominous when you present it in that manner. But carry on.
I had to go in the woods, and I had to help take down one of nature's most deadliest creatures with a 20 gauge shotgun.
What? Did you hunt man? Is that what you're telling me?
The most dangerous game was played.
What a revelation that would be. This many episodes
Here on
of
the
the
podcast.
where you're just like casually drop that you just like to hunt people once in a while.
It'd be a real test of how like our demographics and our listener base. Because if I told like 10 random people, I don't know if any of those 10 people would call, but like if I told 100,000 people and they were like, "Hey, there's this podcast I listened to. I think one of the hosts might have killed somebody."
Yeah, you should go check it out. We'd have to figure out if listeners have like been paying close enough attention to like call the right law enforcement to like zero in on your location. Maybe you've dropped hints along the way. And yeah, we'd have to figure out if anyone is a good Samaritan enough to call the cops.
But anyway,
So what are you hunting? What are you out in the woods hunting?
I was in the woods hunting one of the most venomous animals that are around here, the deadly clay pigeon.
Nice. Okay. So you went and shot some trap.
I did.
I haven't done it a lot in my life, but it's very fun. I have shot trap. Being someone who grew up in the country, it's a thing that people like to. So if you don't know, if you're out there and you're not a gun shooter, which is perfectly normal thing to be,
This is like the fourth or fifth gun talk we've had somehow on this
Yeah.
podcast, by the way.
We weirdly do talk about guns a lot on the show. I don't know how this happens. So clay pigeons and shooting trap, it's a gun sport, I guess you'll say.
It's
And
golfing with guns, basically.
yeah, they're different forms of it, but basically there's a little target, usually made out of clay, that you fling into the air in some way. You can do it by hand. There are machines that do it, but basically you fling that thing into the air really high. Then you are holding a gun, you track it with the gun, and you try to shoot it out of the air before it hits the ground and it, crushes itself. Sometimes people will do like two at once, and you have to shoot both of them before they come down, things like that. So there's lots and lots of variations, but that's the general form. Um, and there are like dedicated places in the world to go do this. Like I said, like you can go pay to go to a range that's gonna fire them out of a special machine whenever you say pull, and all kinds of crazy stuff. Or you can just like have a buddy who's got a launcher that he's just gonna fling it with his hand. So what was your flavor that you did?
We went to it was basically like the golf course version. Like
Okay.
a business around here. We had to take a training first. This is basically like a late birthday present for me.
Okay.
So basically, like the reservation was made on my birthday, but it was like a month out. But we went to this place, did training, plus did 25 shots of the skeeting, the clays. The training was just like
alcohol shots at first. I was like, so they handed us a gun and then handed us.
That's banned. I was thinking about like I should go with a bunch of my friends. We have a couple beers and do this. And of course, when we pull up, it's the signs like there's absolutely no alcohol permitted on the premises. And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, that actually probably makes the most sense. Like, let's not give idiots shotguns and beers.
I appreciate that.
But yes, like we had, it was training plus 25 shots. And the training was from this very sweet, like 60, 70-year-old dude, or at least seemed of that age.
Okay.
And he's basically like, hey, this is a gun. We're going to give you a 20 gauge shotgun. That's 2 shots because it doesn't kick back as hard. And okay, so we're going to go stand in front of this mirror. You make sure there's no shells in here. Look in the mirror. Do you see yourself? Okay, looking down the gun nicely. All right, you're trained. Let's go. We hopped in a golf cart and just drove around and went to launchers and shot some clays.
So like you're holding the gun and then they put you in a golf cart from that point to take you out to the range or whatever. Is that how it works?
Yes, like it's basically like a big lap. Some guy bought like 100 acres and basically literally made like it almost feels like walking through a zoo. But instead of animals, you're stopping at these little stations. They're like Station 7, and this one shoots like one clay straight up and one from left to right real fast, and do this and like all over the place like that.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Interesting. That's fun. I've seen places around kind of like that. Like they're like gun ranges and stuff that are in kind of urban-ish areas near me. There's like at least two that I can think of, and I've driven by them, but I've never considered that maybe you could like do what you did, where you don't have to bring your own gun.
Oh yeah, it was all rentals and test things and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, because I genuinely have really enjoyed like doing clay pigeons and stuff in my life, but like I'm also a person who doesn't really want a gun in my house either. Don't want to be a person who owns a gun and has to keep track of that and keep that safe and stuff. So, yeah, that could be a nice a
It's a
nice
nice day out.
alternative. Yeah, a nice little day out and shooting things.
So it's crazy because so when I was growing up, my dad got me a rifle just for target shooting. We're getting to weird American gun talk again.
Yeah, we
But
are.
like I shot a rifle a bunch as a kid and I was decent at it, but I was little. I've tried to shoot a handgun a couple times, and I was at least of the age of being way an adult slash having played a shitload of first person shooters my whole life.
Yeah,
And I'm not gonna lie, I think that skill translates over a little bit, at least for like looking down iron sights or a normal sight and knowing the logistics of this is how you aim, this is what you do. So coming into the clay shooting, I was like, oh, you just look down the side of the shotgun. I know it comes out as like a spray. It's not like a bullet. I was like, this should be easy. So he kept telling me like, don't use the for the clay thing. You're not supposed to look down the sight at the end of the shotgun. You're supposed to just look past the tip of the shotgun and
yeah,
like hover over the clay. And for whatever reason, that logic eluded me at first. So like I missed the first two, I think. And he was like, "No, you're slow and you're behind it." He's like, "You need to aim like ahead or whatever way." He's like, "Don't let it start arcing. Like catch it ahead of time." And to me, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be focusing on. So if you put your hand in front of your face and focus past your hand, you'll see like two of your hands,
yeah.
kind of deal.
Mhm.
So I would see two guns, and I was like, "I know I'm not doing this right. I guess I'll just focus on the right gun because I was looking down with my right eye."
Uh-huh.
And after that point, I was good for at least we did 4 shots at each station. I was good for at least one clay per station.
Nice. Okay, that's
And
pretty
then
good.
I thought for the first time, I thought so too.
Yeah.
And then the last one, he was like, usually when people do this for real, you shoot both. Like after you pull the trigger for the first one, the next one goes off. It's like, do you guys want to try that? So I did like the slow version of it where I had one shot on each launch, but not like back to back. I he pulled the first one, I managed to hit it right away, and he's like, "Okay, do you want to do the other one?" I was like, "Sure." So he launched the other one. I got that one, so that felt good. They ended
Nice.
on like 2 for 2.
So you didn't ever do anywhere like you have 2 shells in and, like, 2 pigeons fly kind of at the same time, and you have to
I
shoot both of them?
I think if we would have had more shots, he would have let us.
Okay,
But I literally only had like 2 shots left at that point. So
gotcha.
I like, and because it was training, and he was again the nicest dude ever, very calm, like supportive, everything, like very good dad, granddad vibes. But like it was just, I think more so like he just didn't want anyone to have a bad time. So it's more like, oh, let's do one at a time, just
That makes
because you have
sense,
2 shots
yeah.
left. And he's like, do you want to try the other one? I was like, yeah, I'll go for it.
It
And
definitely is more of an advanced thing for sure, but it's fun to yeah, like, 'cause every time I've ever done this, it's like, it takes a while to, like, get the feel, like you're talking about, to figure out, like, where to look and, like, how much to lead the pigeon and stuff and all that jazz, but then eventually it's fun to, like, "Okay, now let's go hard mode. Let's see if I can do 2 at once. Let's go."
and even with so the gun he gave us was lower impact, and the shells we had were low impact shells or low recoil shells.
Oh, interesting.
So he was basically like, you put your face on the side of the gun and tuck it into your shoulder as hard as possible so it doesn't go anywhere and it'll hurt
Yeah.
way less. And by the end of the day, I must have been getting sloppy. Where like I could feel it kicking my shoulder a little bit more. So I have a good bruise in like my shoulder armpit area of like looks like almost like a broken blood vessel kind of thing. Like
Yep.
little lines going down my arm. It was like a my badge of honor, being a cool guy.
Yeah, anytime I've ever shot a gun in my life, which is really only a handful of times, but anytime I ever have, it ended up with like next day shoulder very sore and a bruise, 100%. Yeah.
And then
Um,
this will be the last gun story because I feel like we do this too much. So the time I went to the handgun range just for like target shooting thing, I went with a bunch of my friends, and it never really clicks to me the way that these things work, or like the places that I'm at, or people's vibes. So when we rented the shotgun for the clay thing, they give you a 15-question basic questionnaire. There's no real background check. It's just like, have you ever been arrested for a felony? Have you ever been arrested with a handgun? Have you ever done this? Blah blah blah.
Oh,
So the
interesting.
last question is, do you have suicidal thoughts or ideologies? And I was like, so all I have to do is like, if I just wrote yes on this, like they're just gonna throw me out.
Yeah, you
So of
just don't
course,
get to
like
do it.
you
Yeah.
know better. But at the handgun range I went to years and years ago, they gave the same basic safety speech. They let you. My buddy brought his gun, but he could do whatever. And these are the two rules, or it's one rule combined, or whatever. He said, "You're only if you any of you idiots aim for not to target, I'm throwing you out immediately." He said because if you don't aim for the target, it could bounce off the floor, the wall, whatever. You could hit someone else in like the stall things. Like not that
Makes
you're
sense.
together, but you're in like a big metal box or a big cement box. And it didn't click until that speech where I was like, there's like 25 people in here. If one of
Yeah.
these idiots got way too stupid, I was like, I have no shot. What the fuck am I going to do in here? And that's when I
Yeah.
decided people are crazy. I need to stay away from them, especially with weapons.
Well, yeah, like again, if you're not American, I feel
This is
like
all wild. This is what I'm trying. This is about like these conversations, but
yeah,
I would at least tell my clay story.
it's hard to explain the attitude towards guns if you're not in this country. Like it is the people who are into it are like very into it, but then like the nonchalance with which they handle these like crazy dangerous items are kind of wild and crazy. Um like growing up my dad had guns, but like he would like lock them up and had a gun safe and everything, and like they were pretty secure and away from like, me as a kid and stuff like that. But there are definitely some people who are like way more of the vibe of like, I got guns everywhere, like there's one in every drawer and stuff like that. And I feel like we're just probably like blowing definitely people's minds if they don't live in America. Or they've seen the news enough to understand exactly how it is.
Yeah, that
What it
seems more
do.
fair at this point.
Yeah. The the other people are dangerous idea is also something I think about a lot when I would live in an apartment. Weirdly, like you are really quadrupling times the number of apartment units there are. Like the danger of like a fire, for example. Like I lived in an apartment one time where each of the apartments a had a fireplace, like a wood burning fireplace. And that was like I couldn't ever not get over the fact that like I'm in an apartment complex with like 9 other units, and there's some idiots here that are gonna burn this place down one day. Like
Do you think like, so there's 10 of you. Do you think each of the 10 of you all assume the other 9 were stupider?
yeah, for sure. 100%.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because like every I don't know,
Like
you
it's what I would do. I'd be
yeah,
like, I'm the responsible one. I'm not gonna be fuck around with this. Like, one of these other idiots are gonna burn this place down. And I know one night I'd be like, I have some napkins. Oh, this paper trash is throw it in the fireplace. And I'd still be like, but I'm better than them. They probably do this shit all the time. Blah blah blah.
well, my approach was I didn't use that fireplace the entire time that I lived there, and all that I used it for was staring at it thinking like, "I bet all these other idiots are throwing their napkins into their fireplace." But yeah, that's definitely a thing to think about sometimes. Just like, all you other idiots are way more dangerous than I am here. It's a nice threat assessment there. Toby, let's jump
Jot
in to talking about weaponry of other kinds. For example, the weapons that require henching into common riders first.
egg, the greatest weapon.
The greatest weapon. We're gonna jump over to emails first thing first. However, if you have an email you would like to send us, send
You
that.
complete wait, wait, you completely ruined my transition because I was gonna say, speaking of idiots throwing things around, do we have any emails? But then you're like, oh, we're gonna talk about the episode. Oh, no, we're gonna talk about email. Never mind.
I apologize that
Thank
I've
you.
that I've ruined it for you. But we are going to talk about emails. Cast at commonwritersucks.com is the email address. Once again, cast at commonwritersucks.com. We have an email this week from our friend Shade. Shade writes in with lots of information for us. Shade says hello. Um, I'm on the wrong email because the email is being very slow. There we go. Shade says, hello. Before we begin, I'd like to celebrate the fact that I somehow indirectly convinced Josh to try Space Sheriff Vaughn because holy crap, this usually does not work. LMAO. Whenever I talk about this kind of stuff with my friends, they just go, that's pretty cool, and then move on to the next topic. So having this work for once was very surprising. I hope you'll enjoy Space Sheriff Gavan. Personally, I think Gavan and the Space Sheriff trilogy in general are very much one of the quintessential classic tokusatsu shows. In a way, Gavan is like classic Kamen Rider, but with an 80s Star Wars-ish style aesthetic. Not to mention Kenji Oba's performance as Gavan himself. The man really knows how an action hero moves, and you can see it in the way he does his stunts without an ounce of fear or doubt in his eyes. Anyway, time to head back.
Isn't that Kuga's theme song? No
Uh,
fear, no something.
I don't remember. Probably, yeah. I think that it has been imprinted on your brain with hatred. Shade says, anyway, time to head back to our regularly scheduled program because we're heading over the rainbow. So Shade links to the producer's blog with some good information for this episode. First, we heard a new song in this episode. It is the Rainbow Gotchard theme song, Toby. That is called "The Sky's the Limit." It's by Back On and Beverly. Um, what did you think about "Sky's the Limit"?
It was pretty catchy. I didn't realize it was a back on jam.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was a Back On jam when I first was listening to it in the episode because the rapping sounds very much like them in the intro
That's
and stuff.
fair.
And it has some like similarities I think to the intro song. But I liked having the this Beverly person on it as well. I thought the female vocals on it were very good too. And I think it's kind of a banger. I'm excited to go now and listen to it outside of the episode where there isn't a lot of like crazy fight noises happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty good. Then some other stuff from the producer's blog. So this says, this is me directly quoting from the blog. You might have noticed, but Hodoro is a little bit dot 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 strange compared to a normal high school student. That wasn't planned. Even though they tried their best to make him as normal as possible, though he was mentally younger than the average 17-year-old, the individuality of his actor, Junsei Motojima, and the accumulation of the different directors uh, for the character created by the various directors who worked on Gotchard, they created the somewhat weird high school boy. And
Wait,
because
so
of
they didn't think they wanted him to be young and weird, or he's just young and weird, like real life, and it translated over, or
it seems like, yeah, they're saying that the young weirdness of the actor has translated. It says because of all that, Hodoro going beyond existing values resulted in the birth of Nijigon, which is the egg guy. So for now on,
the little robot.
little robot dude. So for now on, the bright and fun Kamen Rider Gotchard will go on while also showcasing the growth of this second Hodoro named Nijigon. So they're okay. So they're actually saying that like Nijigon is like Hodoro's, I don't know, I guess value, his spirit incarnate, which is hilarious.
It gets weirder as it goes.
It
We'll talk
does.
about it when it comes up. It was already
Uh,
weird. It just gets weirder as it goes.
I love the idea that they're like, we tried to make a normal high school student, then we hired this actor, and he's a weirdo. So listen, it's his fault. Shade says Hodoro's good boy vibes are totally from the actor himself. LOL. Also from the producer's blog, it says the images that Hodoro saw in his head when he first transformed into Gotchard and when he received the Excalibur from UFO X were probably a manifestation of Tamagon's power, the egg's power. Yeah, they kind of explain that in the show too. Like basically, the egg has been there helping him behind the scenes and assisting in all of his alchemy transformations and all that fun stuff. So the egg giveth, I guess.
So now the real question that we have to figure out is, how does a driver implant an egg in a child?
Well, it's a good question. Why don't you have a seat right over there, and we'll tell you. Apparently, producer Minato insisted from the very beginning on having rain pouring down for the entire episode until Hodoro came back with the rainbow, which, makes perfect sense for a rainbow themed Gotchard to have a rainbow in the show. And Tamagon's personality changed a bit when becoming Nijigon. Niji means rainbow in Japanese, and that's because he was born after being inspired by Hodoro. Nijigon himself became a bit Hodoro-like. Yeah, so they're really hammering home the point that like he is he is Hodoro incarnate.
He's just like his old man.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Shade says, some of my thoughts on the episode itself, even though I really enjoyed this episode, I do think it's a shame how they had the guts to kill Hopper 1, but not to let it sit for more than one episode.
Oh yeah, classic, classic Kamen Rider move.
Oh well, excited to see what they're going to do next, I guess. And two, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but do you remember Gotchard's cameo in the Geats movie and how he was pulling off crazy alchemy moves there? Those moves are identical to what he's doing here in his Rainbow Gotchard form. Does that mean that Gotchard's form from that movie was actually Hodoro doing more time travel shenanigans? Question mark.
Did we see
Interesting.
the Keats Gotchard movie?
We did. Yeah. It was the Geats movie where Gotchard was just a small part of it. Um, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember the specifics of how he shows up in that movie or what he looks like, but
Because all I remember was him running around with Hopper at the end of Geats
that's the end of,
Geats
yeah, that's in
Prime.
the show itself, yeah, where Geats is just like, that crazy boy. Yeah, I distinctly remember that, but I don't really remember from the movie exactly what the I guess scenario is, but interesting. Well, Shade, thank you very much for the email. Once again, if you would like to send an email and you're out there in listener land, send those over to cast@commonwritersucks.com and we will read them on the show. Toby, before we jump into the actual episode discussion, we also have a Patreon. Patreon.com/slash the comment writers. You can get all kinds of bonus content every single week. It's just $3 a month. You can watch us watch a bunch of different Common Writer shows. Right now, we're watching through Boon Boomjer. So some Super Sentai involved there as well. Just lots and lots of stuff. Um, let's see. Coming up this week and next week, we are starting the watch for our next Common Writer series, Common Writer O's. So if you would like to watch O's along with us, now is the time to join, and you can keep up to date as we watch through it every single week. We also are finishing X-Aid. We are watching the final ending movie this week, so that'll be out soon as well. So again, if you want to catch up on our entire X-Aid watch, you can join now and watch through the entire thing with us and hear our commentary along the way. So again, $3 a month, patreon.com/slash the comment writers. We hope you check it out. And you also get access to our Discord. And we love making new friends over there in the Discord. All right, Toby, let's jump into the episode. Let's talk about Gotchard episode 38. So last time around, Hopper 1 died. And you and I found it quite funny, I think. Was the was
To the
the
to the chagrin of others who have more soul.
Yeah, I think that it really hammered home that you and I are dead inside. No, I think the Hopper 1 dying stuff, I think it all made sense. It all worked. It's exactly how I would have written that show. Just the visual of a painted white grasshopper toy and crying over it is gonna be funny, no matter how you do it. So Hodoro, of course, turned into a giant egg in that episode. He freaks out and he gets encased in this egg. So as this episode opens, we get a little recap of that. We see the egg. Then they do some studying of the egg, some initial analysis, and Professor Kyoka tells us that the egg must be the 101st Kemi.
Do we know there was a secret 101st Kemi? Or is
I
this was
don't
this the revelation for all today? Or the episode, whatever?
I think it's the revelation for all, but I easily could be forgetting a hint or an image or something that they showed early on to indicate that there was an extra Kemi. Uh yeah, I don't remember.
Completely fair. Just curious.
I feel like anytime you're in Japan and you give a number of something, you have to do the one extra, right? Like Pokemon, there's 150. Oh, there's actually 151. You got to do the one extra secret one. That's just how it works. So it was not shocking to me. Um, they suspect that they thought that the 101st Kemi was maybe a fairy tale, basically, that it wasn't real, but they now are suspecting that Kudo's dad put it in the driver. So it's been there since Hodoro has become Gotchard, basically. And we also get the first scene here where we find out Kudo kind of blames herself for what happened to Hodoro and for what happened to Hopper One and the Chemis, because as she mentions here, like she brought up the fairy tale, and the fairy tale with the golden flower is the reason that Hopper One was kind of off on his little adventure show. So she's sort of like in a ball crying, essentially, at this point.
Like littlest baby metal always said, all of her friends are gonna die, and it's all her fault.
Yeah, and it really, yeah, it comes to a head here for her for sure. Then we move into the egg, Toby. So I think that
Where
the way
wait,
that,
where too much took place this week inside a said egg,
yeah, there
but
was a lot. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those episodes where there might not be a ton to talk about because, like, really, if you break down sort of like beat to beat what happened in the show, not a lot happened, but it was like the emotional build to like the big Rainbow Gotchard reveal. You know what I mean? Because yes, a lot of this episode did take place in the egg, and there was discussions about, um, I guess discussions about whether it's worth fighting or not, and whether it's worth going on or not.
well, yeah. So
Uh,
like the big chunk with that part with the egg, not the big egg he was in, the little egg that was inside him, because somehow there's two eggs now.
there's two eggs, yeah.
I don't understand why the egg's whole vibe was like, hey, just stay here with me. Like you'll live, because obviously, like the egg with the egg, the little egg, egg prime, egg squared, was like, hey, it's dangerous out there. There's happy memories in here. Look, I made your mom make you ama rice. This is delicious, isn't it? You can get hurt if you go outside. That's scary. But if he's like already inside the big egg and everyone knows where the big egg is, like I feel like they're just gonna break the egg. There's a lot of layers of eggs that I
There
don't
are some
understand.
layers, yeah. I mean, I think that it was mostly supposed to be metaphor, because the egg does the egg inside the egg, the blue egg, um, Tamagon or whatever they decide his name is. He does say multiple times that like, "Oh, we're inside of you." So like, yes, there's a giant eggshell around him, but all of the discourse is happening internal, I guess, to his mind, even though we're seeing it kind of like it's on a stage inside of the eggshell.
I gotcha.
I don't know how he still had a giant eggshell around him. I don't know how that worked, but it's certainly he's having an internal fight with this egg.
I thought it was interesting that on the show that's basically knockoff Pokemon, gotta catch them all. At one point, we go inside the Pokeball and we see how it all works. That was
We
very
really,
intriguing.
yeah, we really do. Yeah. I really liked here that we didn't have an intro. We didn't have our intro song, and we had the title card appear like through the rain and through lightning.
Yeah, it
So
was very cool.
it was like illuminated with the lightning. That was awesome. I really like that a lot. And then they do where normally they'll show off like the cards that appear in this episode, and they'll kind of do that little like they let a like little like, oh, they're dancing a little bit. This one they just had like a giant egg card leaning against the wall next to the egg, which I thought was cool too. Um,
One of
they
the one of the
definitely,
dumber one of the dumber inside the egg things was they just like put him against a black background. They obviously just used a projector from across the room and like projected Kamen Rider images, and just seemed very like a weird, cheap way to do some of that stuff. I guess like real
oh,
basic.
see,
Like this is theater. Like look,
yeah, I was the complete opposite. I thought that was like a really really cool way to do it. I thought that it one, like, yes, it's cheap and cost effective, I'm sure, because it literally was just a projector on the wall. But he's crouched in front of it, so the majority of the projected image is also going over his body and his face. And I thought that was a really cool way to represent, because again, we're all in his mind, right? I thought it was a cool way to represent like his thoughts and his memories of the chemis as the egg is talking to him. Uh,
That's a level of metaphor I did not think of.
but it is very, and I think intentionally so, uh like very like local theater production as well, of like, I'm doing my dramatic monologue in front of a projected screen that's showing like, I don't know, cow eyes getting cut open or something. It's, yeah, it felt very like avant-garde.
And then the other weird part, I'll just cover all the inside the egg talk first, and then we'll
Sure.
go outside the egg. Uh, Him feeding eggs to the little egg, and the little egg shoving its plastic face into it. Uh, Really weird and off-putting, and I think that's like technically like auto cannibalism, like eating his own self, kind of like.
Yeah, yeah. It took a turn, I think, at that point. So we'll describe that scene a little bit more in depth here. So yeah, Hodoro decides he's hungry, and then suddenly his mom appears, ready to feed him, and then the egg points out like, "Hey, this is all inside of you, so whatever you dream up is gonna come true." So he clearly wishes for his mom to make him omurice, so she does. As soon as he starts eating it, she disappears, but then the egg is hungry, so then he goes to make the egg some omurice. He ends up making it omurice in the shape of Gotchard, like it's colored blue and it looks like Gotchard's face.
It looked disgusting.
It
Like
looked pretty gross.
like blue and orange eggs with rice do not present well visually.
And the eggshell, the floating, talking blue eggshell, smushes itself into this plate of food, wiggles around a little bit, and then raises back up, and it's kind of covered in like hot sauce and just food scraps, and the rest of the food has magically been eaten. And then the egg just sort of like hangs in the air for a while with food dripping off of it, talking about how delicious the rice was. It's very strange. Yeah, I didn't like that. But that is also the portion of the egg, inside the egg stuff, where Hodoro kind of finds his resolve. He decides he's gonna go back because he says life is like cooking omurice. Basically, you get your humans and your chemis, you mix them all up, and they work together. Was his explanation. So he doesn't want to give up on his friends. He's gonna figure out new alchemy methods to bring them back to life, and he doesn't care if he fails 1,000 times. He's gonna go back and do his gotcha. The egg is still scared, but he says, "Well, what if we do it together?"
As always, he gave the speech. They didn't play the music with the speech this time, but he gave the speech to his friend the egg,
They did play like
and Egbert was ready to get out of there.
they did play like the sad piano music version of the song. Like you got a little bit of that where he's like, I'm not gonna let my friends down." Like you got a little bit of like "na na 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 na" in the background. So it was there. Yeah.
And also at one point, I think it's probably to wrap up the egg talk. When him and the egg both decide to leave Eggverse together, they go on this beautiful blue sky, watery reflection floor, and that's a scene straight out of Kingdom Hearts, the greatest video game ever. So I just want everyone to know. You can compare the screenshots of Sora and Kairi together, especially when Sora is near dead and like the brain verse. It's basically the same scene.
Yeah, I guess that
You look at those pictures. I showed you the pictures earlier. I showed everyone the pictures in the Discord, found at patreon.com/the comment writers. The pictures are in there. You can see it for yourself.
I'll have to go reference. I haven't looked at these pictures yet. I'm gonna look at them right now.
I
It's
believe
pretty
they're
similar. It's pretty darn similar. You're right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is about the 17th reference now of Kingdom Hearts in the show. I'm waiting for the day now that the creator producer man says, "Oh, I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. A lot of shots were taken shot for shot out of this."
I thought it reminded me of the end of the Truman Show, where he's like kind of out on the ocean and he goes up on the like staircase that looks like it's in the sky.
Yeah,
Thought it
to the
looked like
door
that.
and.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks just like the Kingdom Hearts. You're right. You're
Mm-hmm.
right. Uh-huh. I had a couple other thoughts about the egg stuff. One, I really really liked. Um, I really really liked the egg at one point is like, Yeah, but why does it have to be you? Like, you're not particularly talented at alchemy. You're just this regular high school student. Like, what is special about you that you have to be the one that fights? I just like the egg takedown of Hodoro. It was pretty good.
Yeah, like it's just hard to tell if like the egg was like that was motivational to like the egg wanted like almost like the X-Rex stuff from episodes and episodes ago. Do you just want the proper responses from Hodoro of, oh yeah, I can do this. Don't worry about it. It's like the final test.
I don't know. I the egg read to me as like genuine actual concern because at some point like he asked the egg like, are you a chemi? And the egg's like, oh, I've been wondering about it. I'm not born yet. I don't want to be born. I've seen all the horrible things that happens to chemis. I don't want to be amalgam. So like I think the egg is like genuinely scared and Hodoro actually has to talk him into leaving. So I don't think it's a test like it has felt before. I think this was like a real feeling, I guess.
Okay.
For me, at points, it felt like a trap. Like the whole like, no, it's safe in here. Just never leave. Never go back. Um, it almost felt a bit like I don't know, like a siren type situation, like of the pirates where they sing their songs and like you just never leave. Come with us. It's beautiful here.
It could have
Uh,
been. Just
yeah. It
there's a lot
it
there's a
seemed
lot more
like
questions than answers. That's for damn sure.
it seemed like the egg was trying to trap me. That was all. But yeah, he decides to come back. He says, "This is where I bounce back." When he jumps out of the egg. But before we get into him jumping out of the egg, we'll talk about that. Let's catch up with what's going on with the other people. Spanner is fighting Gigist outside of the egg. I thought this was a pretty cool little fight. Obviously, it's a little side thing going on, but Gigist, the very first thing he says is he basically says the black flame that engulfs you is a power inherited from me. Calls him a brother, says, "Come over to our side." And Spanner says, like, "You're saying that your power and my power are the same? What a ridiculous joke."
And all
Uh,
and all those fight scenes again, like we mentioned before, Rain's whole episode
yep.
until the egg is born, but especially with the costumes themselves, like the armored rider costumes, it looks fantastic with the Rain stuff. I don't
Yeah.
remember seeing that a lot. Like I remember like X-Aid, Geats, and all those had the humans in the rain for the dramatic scenes. I don't remember actually like the riders in the rain battling.
Yeah, I feel like we don't get that very often. I think you're right. Um, and it looks so cool here. It's raining very hard, and especially when Spanner before he henshins, they like zoom into his face really tight, and then he's just pouring down rain, and that's when he's like, "This is a ridiculous joke." Just very cool, like really really cool vibes. The fight was good, and this is where Gigas summons five chemis kind of out of the air. He does that thing where he just goes and grabs them from wherever they are, and then he fuses them into himself, so he can be even stronger, I suppose. We talked about Kudo being sad, so she continues to be sad until she gets a very stern pep talk from Renge, which I thought was a very cool scene. Renge shows up and basically is like, "What are you doing? Like, you're a common writer, aren't you?" And kind of says like, "Listen, I know that you're my junior, but I've looked up to you until now. But now I feel stupid for admiring you. Like, basically, you need to suck it up. You need to get your shit together, and you need to go fight because this is ridiculous."
And then, like the
Uh,
best part of that was like Kudo was again like curled up in a ball on the floor, holding whited out
Hopper.
plastic dead Hopper,
Yeah.
and like again the absurdity of it, like stop crying with your little plastic toy, like get your ass up and go do something is just too good.
Yeah. I really love the role that they've put Renge in. Like, I like that she, uh because, when they first introduced her and Sabi, and they said that they were upperclassmen, it didn't feel like it, and I feel like they've done a really good job of, like, putting her in positions where she has gotten to give speeches like this or, like, show off her power in ways that now it actually does feel like she's their, senior, that she's
Yeah,
she's older than them. Especially this one. This one was really, really great. I liked it a lot. So then Kudo, having received the pep talk, goes and joins the fight with Spanner. Sabi and Ringe and Professor Minato cheer them on. And yeah, the fight basically continues. They get teleported away to a parking garage. And eventually, Gigas tries to get inside the egg again, which leads us to the "this is where I bounce back." So the egg bursts open, and Gigas is shocked to see basically a rainbow shoot out of the egg. And then Hodoro shows up to protect Spanner and Kudo, who had just gotten dehensioned. And he's carrying the little blue egg in his hand, and it hatches into, I guess, like a little mechanical dinosaur dude, Nijigon.
He
Uh,
looks like if there was a toy, a plastic toy version of. It's a weird mix of like a Rock'em Sock'em robot mixed with a Digimon.
yes, dude, yeah, that's spot on. Yeah, I can't describe it any better. That is 100% the vibe. It's kind of weird. I don't know. We'll see in future episodes if the little guy annoys me. I could see that he might, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for this episode.
It like to me, it's some weird thing where like the Hopper X toy started making the buckle and driver look cheap, where like it
Yeah.
looks like extra like little kids toy kind of vibe. Which granted we know they all are, but it's fine. But like the toy is so base looking. Like there's no reflection on what's presumably like metal. It's a little like looks like a little like dragon sword kind of too. But
Yeah.
like it's very flat paint. There's no. It doesn't look very movable. There's no like special pieces or quirks to it. It's just like a flat orange and blue like plastic dinosaur, and just looks cheap, especially compared to the fact it's supposed to be like the greatest Kemi of all and all the goofy stuff.
Yeah, I think with some of the drivers that we've seen in rider shows, they can fake it pretty well and make it, by adding some sound effects and stuff, it can sound very metal and heavier than it is. I think the Geats driver is a really good example of that. I think that one can, like, the way that chunks in, that they add the sound, does a good job. Uh, but then even in Geats, you start adding in some of the bigger stuff, and like this one is like crazy nine-tailed fox that spans out when you plug it in and stuff, and then it starts looking plasticky. But this one is definitely the worst of all of them, I think, that we've seen. Because yeah, it looks like you've put half of a transformer on top of your belt buckle. And there's really no way around that. That is just that's what it appears to be.
They don't seem to sell unless I unless it transforms, which I think it does. If you want to order the DX Kemi Nijigan, it's only $70. Estimated to come out in June, so it's almost here. You get both halves of the card. That I guess that was one of the cool parts
Yeah.
when he made him into the fancy belt buckle driver thingy. The flame of the dragon kind of looks, or was or is its own card. So it's actually like two cards that stick together side to side, like full
Yep.
art kind of thing. And especially from the card collector nerd in me, I was like, yeah, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, it is kind of cool that the little thing transforms. So it's like looks like the little guy, he kind of turns like the little guy's head around, splits him open. That's how he hooks him to the belt. But yeah, the coolest part for sure was the cards, I think. Because as you said, it's two cards hooked together, kind of side by side. He pulls them apart. And when he puts them into the driver, they say extra, and then the other one says special, which was very cool. I thought the belt call outs during the session was awesome. The extra special, you ready? Gone. I thought that was a nice little addition. And then of course we get Rainbow Gotchard. So this is the new henshin using the new Kemi, and we get the brand new form of Rainbow Gotchard. What are your thoughts?
There's a lot going on with that costume.
It is quite elaborate. Yeah.
I mean, it's at least to me. I think I like it less than some of the other ones. It's
Okay.
just it's in a show of flashy things. I feel like it's a very flashy costume,
It
and lots of
is.
parts sticking out, and elbows, and giant shoulders, and all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm very glad that it isn't. It wasn't what the base form of Gotchard was, right? Like it's too complicated for that. It's too crazy for that. Uh, yeah, just giant shoulder pads. The like the Gotchard antenna that stick up from the face are like so ridiculously tall. They kind of go crazy. He's got this like giant circle on his chest and stuff. But in the context of like, hey, this is like a, super crazy upgraded form late season of a Kamen Rider, I think it looks very, very cool. Like compare this to um some of the things we've seen, like the decayed ones that you've seen that I've shown you, where it's just like, I don't know, we took all these cards and then we just put them all over his body. That looks cool, right? There have been some like atrocious, like kind of final power ups that Kamen Riders have gotten, and like this one actually like is still aesthetically pleasing to me, which is nice. I appreciate that.
Is this gonna be the last version that he's always the rest? Like, is he always gonna be
I think
Rainbow
so.
Gotchard the rest of the time now? Like, no more Platinum where he does all the cards and stuff. Like, he's just
Yeah,
Rainbow Gotchard now.
I think this is probably the ultimate form that we'll see, is my guess, but I don't know for sure.
Okay,
Haven't been reading the old leaks or anything like that,
that a
but
guy.
let's see. Other things that happens after he henshins, he creates this like blast that goes out across the city, which brings all the chemis back to life. We get to see them later. But Kyoka in the lab sees that they're back, and Hodoro figures out alchemy, basically, as we said during the email segment. He rides a steel beam like a snake, essentially. He kind of deflects a trident that gets thrown at him and then turns it into a sword and uses it. And then he's like, "Hey, this is easy. It's just like cooking."
Wait, and we know
uh,
how bad he is. We know how bad he is at cooking. So maybe this was actually his gotcha all along.
exactly. And yeah, here's where I wrote down that the new song is awesome. And then, of course, Hodoro wins. So he is able to capture all five cards that Gigist, or all five Chemi cards that Gigist had pulled in. So those are, if you're curious, the Macentaurus, which is a centaur, Van Fenrir, which is kind of like an ice wolf, sort of, Howden, which is just literally Odin, Gid Griffin, which just is a griffin. It looks like maybe a griffin made out of steel, potentially. And then my favorite of the bunch, Don Poseidon, which appears to be like King Poseidon, but like in the Yakuza for some reason.
Well, it's either that or like it looks like he has a Letterman's jacket on.
Could be, yeah, could be that too. He is wearing some sort of like fancy coat, but he has like a scarf, like a kerchief around his neck too, if I remember correctly. It's a very weird vibe. I wish we got some backstory on Don Poseidon.
And the exciting news is it's another 5 chemis we'll never hear about again.
No, well, that never ever, not once.
Saw him once, get him back out.
And of course, Hopper 1 is back alive now. So Hodoro is super happy to see Hopper 1 and then also Skibo and Trooper, because Professor Kyoka brought them in for the big celebration. And while they're celebrating, Kyoka and Minato have a little side conversation. She says that boy just might change the future of alchemy. He dreams so big, and he has a dream so big that it breaks all the rules.
I actually super appreciate that. Of all the dumb speeches we usually get, at least it wasn't like his speech this time.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like, obviously, she's not as teachery, so it's easier for her to say. But if we go all the way back, when Hodoro passed his alchemy training to like even get in the group, he was like, "I did it this way," and everyone was like, "No, but that's wrong. So you're like technically you're wrong.
Yep.
You did do it, so we'll let you stay, but like you were wrong." And now they don't care. Now the professor's like, "Yeah, fuck it, do whatever.
Yeah,
If you got if you got it working, you got it working."
it is the complete culmination of that, which is cool. That it's a cool callback to that. Minato is 100% won over with these kids because he's like, got that right. Then he says, our job is to light their path forward. Very sweet, very sweet. So the episode there, ending, uh, a very hopeful, very sweet, very like, uh, I don't know, like a very cutesy little ending. Like everybody's back to life. All the Kemis are alive. Hodoro's got his rainbow situation. Kudo's happy. Kudo has this big old smile on her face at the end of the episode because she realized that he's back, and she figured out her own gotcha kinda sort of in the middle of this too, because she's like she starts echoing stuff that he says right in the middle of the fight before he comes back. She's like, I have faith in Hodoro, and he's gonna come back, and the Kemis are gonna work together with humans. And uh yeah, it's all very cute. So we're just gonna rainbow on out to the rest of the season. There's gonna be no more conflict, Toby. Everyone's happy here on out.
Another ending, another solid ending where everything went right and everyone's happy now and running out of time for a lot of those stories I mentioned a couple weeks ago. They never don't have endings yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I really wanted. Speaking of stories that don't have endings, I wanted like Dream Hodoro, where as soon as the egg is like anything you wish can come true. I wanted him to just like make his dad appear. That would be the answer. Just like, oh yeah, Dad, you showed up.
That would have been the time where like they do the thing they do in movies where like if they're like Austin Powers was big for the gimmick, but when they try to hide like genitals from either sex and they like walk in front of like a bottle and then they turn the corner and there's a lamp there that's just in the right area. Like they could have had his dad come in the kitchen. But like first he was behind the lamp and then Hodoro was cooking a meal and held up the pot and said, Dad, do I use this size pan, and covered his face, and they should have did that.
They should have. They really should have. Yeah. Yeah. I agree though. I think with your point, and we talked about it a bit in the email segment. It's a bummer that the Kemis couldn't stay dead for longer than an episode. That's a bummer. We
It's
have
it's it's the joke we've made for 4 or 5 different shows now between the ones we do the main episode things for and the Patreon ones. Like there's really the only long-term death or like huge change I can think of was the coroner from X-Aid was gone for like 20 episodes.
yeah,
But
for
even
sure.
he came back. Like there's no stakes in any of this ever.
No. And we well, I guess we'll see what happens in the movie for X8, but like X8 even undercuts some of their like things that happen towards the end that you think are going to be really emotional ending like finality things, and it even walks those back, and you're like, why do we do it? Like why? um in this particular one, it undercuts both the episode where Hodoro or where Hopper One dies, because like you sort of know from experience, like, well, he's gonna come back really soon. And then it also like undercuts this one because he was dead for such a short amount of time, and you expected him to come back so quickly, and then he does. And it's like, well, okay, like I'm glad he's back, I guess, but like it doesn't feel impactful. It doesn't feel as impactful as it did with the coroner coming back, because at least he was gone for a while. But here it's literally the very next episode. Very silly. Although I guess it has to be uh because if Hopper One doesn't come back, we can't get regular Gotchard to Henshin until Hopper One is alive again.
That is true.
So I guess he did need to come back fairly quickly, because we can't just go straight to Rainbow Gotchard probably every time. But certainly is a silly, goofy kid show thing.
How many
And
kids do you think cried last week?
so many.
So that
I
they
think
had to fix it.
I think that there was probably I bet it's a non-zero amount of Japanese children that cried uh on that Saturday morning when they watched the show, right? It had to get some tears going.
I, like when we were growing up, uh, they killed Optimus Prime,
Yep.
if you recall, and that broke so many people that they changed the ending of the GI Joe movie so that I think Duke was the head GI Joe, right?
Yeah.
Voice going up? Question mark. Yeah, they changed the ending of GI Joe because like we can't kill the kid's favorite again. This was absurd. And it's the same vibe.
It was so wild that they killed Optimus Prime in that movie in general. But I guess they were doing it to make a new toy line, right? Basically it was like, oh, well these guys are dead. Here's a whole new line of Transformers to go buy. Isn't that what it was?
I'm sure it was something like that. I'm upset because I was looking at cried at Hopper dying on YouTube itself. It's all the scenes from when Hopper dies in Stranger Things, which is the thing I complain about all the time. So I
Ugh.
can't even find goddamn Gotchard on here. It's all just stupid Stranger Things.
You gotta search in Japanese. You gotta head over to the Japanese social media and search in Japanese, and then you'll find it all, I'm sure.
You know how you put Gotchard? Stranger Things still wins. The internet is not listening to what I want to find right now.
The internet's gotten dumber. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but search is much worse than it used to be like several years ago. I don't know why, but it feels like the internet's gotten much dumber than it used
I like to think we're helping with that a little bit.
to be. Any other final thoughts about episode 38, Toby?
No, I mean, it was a nice wrap up. I'm glad the egg is hatched so we can stop doing this. Of course, Hopper being gone for 20 minutes was, I guess, obviously the thing they had to do, but still silly.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us for this week. Toby, where can the people find you on the internet?
On Twitter, it's Life of Tobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays.
I'm on YouTube at Pretty Deece. I'm on Twitter at Pretty Deece Josh, and I am on Blue Sky at meek.lol. Check those places out. And of course, send us in those emails, cast at commonwritersucks.com. And please check out the Patreon, patreon.com/the comment writers. Check out all of our bonus content, $3 a month, and we're doing lots of fun stuff. We hope that you join us to check that out. So once again, that's going to do it for us for this week. Over on the Patreon, we will be finishing up X-Aid and starting in on O's. And next week here in the main podcast, we'll be talking about Gotchard, episode 39. We hope you join us back for that. And until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.